under Chairman Smith. Mr.
you,
Pascrell.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that. Professor Hackney, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Great witnesses. Thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRS finally has some resources to go after political malfeasance. You described it well. In fact, on page 1, you talked about some things that haven't been discussed in the way they've been discussed, and that is the question of testimony in tax-exempt organization and politics. Very interesting. Can you expand on how the IRS could better regulate political involvement by 501c4s organizations, if allowed to do so? How damaging has the appropriations rider blocking such regulations been to the proper oversight of tax-exempt sector?
Thank you, Ranking Member Pascrell. It's been quite damaging, right? The IRS tried to enact rules to clarify this world. The IRS Tea Party crisis that we talked about earlier, where involving Lois Lerner, was created largely by the fact that the rules were unclear, and the IRS didn't know what to do, and they looked like a gang that couldn't shoot straight. As you noted, there was no targeting found. No reports found that. And the IRS has made good on an effort to try and clear up this problem in the future by clarifying how much it is that you can spend. With a C4, it's unclear what it is that you can use. The statute itself says exclusively you must use these dollars for social welfare, and it has been determined that engaging in political activities is not furthering a social welfare purpose. If the IRS could enact rules regarding this, we could clarify what kind of level of expenditures push you into that area.
And last year, I wrote to the IRS. I write to them frequently. It's a lovely day in the neighborhood with the IRS. For the deep concern I have with the approval of fraudulent charities that applied for tax-exempt status. The form is 1023-EZ. As you testified, this condensed form simply does not require enough information, God bless you, from applicants to establish legitimacy in many cases. How can the IRS improve its oversight of the application process for the organizations to receive tax-exempt status?
Ranking Member Pascrell, it's a challenging situation given the employees that we have. I think we have to come back to data and use cross-checks of these organizations against other individuals, under other tax forms. So I think it's using much more sophisticated use of data. Whether the Form 1023-EZ can continue to exist is a hard question. The IRS used it to get out of the backlog that it's experiencing. It just couldn't keep up with the flow of the applications that are coming in. But I think there is the ability to use more data to cross-check against things. This is similar to the situation where we have Crew pointing out that independent expenditures are being reported to the FEC, but the IRS is doing nothing about it and allowing these organizations. I think there's a lot of spaces there where there can be more cross-checking of data, and I think that could make it a significant improvement.
As you know, in 2020, the Trump administration issued a ruling ending the long-standing requirement for tax-exempt organizations to disclose substantial donor names and addresses to the IRS. Can you expand on the damage this has done to our campaign finance system, especially as it relates to preventing foreign actors to get involved in our own elections?
Absolutely. So C4s are able to do some political campaign intervention. And they're not necessarily reporting to the FEC about these activities. But the IRS used to collect donor names and addresses on these forms. This information is critical for the IRS to enforce other aspects of the tax law, including a prohibition on annulment to C4s and to other excise taxes that apply to misuse of these funds. It's made the IRS blind. I called my article when I wrote on this, Dark Money Darker, for this very reason. It has made this money impossible to see, impossible to find even the foreign stuff that we were talking about, as Chair Schweikert had pointed out.
Thank you, Mr. Hackney, and thank you to all the witnesses who were excellent. I agree with a lot of what you're saying, and I think we can come to some general agreement here with the truth. What do you think?
I'm pathologically optimistic, but then again, I'm 61 years old with a 17-month-old. And with that, thank you, Mr. Pascrell. Mr. Chairman.